Anyway, we want to welcome you folks here at the Stone River National Battlefield, and thank you for coming out to join us for these programs featuring a battery of Union artillery, where we share the story of Union artillery and its decisive role in this battle. And this weekend our focus is trying to share that story with you by looking at the experiences of the men of the Chicago Board of Trade Battery. And so what we're going to do as the men move up to their guns and get prepared to fire, this way this program will work is we'll go ahead and fire these cannons for you folks, so you get a sense of the, how it works, and also the, the sense of the power that even a small grouping of cannons can have. Then once they're done firing, we'll talk a little bit about the Chicago Board of Trade boys and what they experienced out here on the battlefield, and then we'll conclude the program with another firing by the battery. Now, there's a couple of safety things we need to talk about before we get started with the firing part of the program. You see the yellow rope here. That is for your safety. If you're out taking pictures and stuff and do actually want to leave the shade, which doesn't seem to be apparent for most of you, we ask that you remain behind the rope. You have rope in front of you at all times. Do not advance out around the end of the rope line. This is for your safety. A lot of people think, I'd really like a picture of what it looks like out front of a cannon when it fires. Just read the stories of infantry charging an artillery battery. No, you don't. Okay? Also, this is going to be fairly loud, so when all the guns have their lanyards stretched taut at the back of the cannons, you may want to do something like this. If you have small children that can't do that for themselves, you may want to do it for them. If you have a hearing aid, I suggest you turn it down. I don't see any pets out here, which is good because they hate these programs. All right, so just keep those couple things in mind. I'm going to turn it over now to our lieutenant in the battery, and they'll go ahead and fire for you folks.
Center section, loaded with shells, 2 seconds. Right section, loaded with case, 3 seconds.
Case, 3 seconds, load!
So all the gunners have given the command to load. The number 1 man at the front right of the gun will sponge out the bore to clean out the burning debris from the last round, while the number 3 man at the right rear of the cannons cut off the oxygen using their thumb at the vent at the back of the cannon. The number 5 will bring the ammunition up after having it checked by the gunner. He'll move up to the number 2 man who will take the round and place it in the bore. Once it's in there, the number 1s will ram the entire package back to the back of the breech of the cannon. The command ready, the number 3 will poke a hole in the powder bag with the priming wire. The number 4 inserts the friction primer attached to the lanyard and will stretch it taut. This is where you might want to cover your ears.
Firing by section! Center section! Fire! Left section! Fire! Right section! Fire! Cease firing!
We'll get them on track eventually. Of course, it really doesn't matter if they all go off together, because guess what's going down range? Now, when John Toomey and the Chicago Board of Trade Battery found themselves located at the beginning of the Battle of Stones River, just on the other side of this road and to the north of the National Cemetery, between the road and the railroad, they had a lot of anxiety building up. You looked at their emotional scale, this battle for them is going to be like a roller coaster, because these guys, Toomey and the rest of the 110 or so souls in the Chicago Board of Trade Battery, are the newest, most inexperienced soldiers that are here. They had literally finished their training, had just arrived in Nashville 2 days before the campaign began, which was December 26, 1862, and have now found themselves here with the rest of the 43,000 man strong Union Army, preparing to fight the 38,000 man strong Confederate Army of Tennessee, commanded by General Braxton Bragg. And they are facing all the fears and self-doubts that any new soldier would experience going into a fight like this. And although many of us have never had that experience, we've all done something that's sort of new to us from time to time, right? And we're not really sure what we're getting into until we actually get started with it. And when's the worst time? When you're actually doing it or before? It's before. To make matters worse, the Chicago Board of Trade Battery, because of their late arrival, really have no assignment in the Union Army. As they're sitting there and they hear the roar of musketry and the boom of cannons as the Confederates attack the right wing of the Union Army about 3 miles to our south, then they hear it get closer and closer as the Confederates indeed have shattered that right wing. They see bits and pieces of their army start to fall out of the woods, running pell-mell back towards the river and beyond. They realize something is going badly, and yet nobody is really telling them what to do. Now, you can imagine how awful that is. I mean, you're sitting there already, a brand new soldier, you're craving some direction, some kind of structure, but since they don't have a position yet really in the Army, they're not getting any kind of direction. And then they have to deal with all their own self-doubts. How am I going to do when the bullets start flying? Am I going to be able to do my job? Are we, as a battery, going to be able to do our job? And then, of course, as John Toomey would write after the battle, there was, of course, the issue of, oh, geez, you know what? I can actually get killed. As he begins to realize this, and he starts to worry through all this. And then finally, General William S. Rosecrans will ride up, speak to Captain James Stokes, commanding the battery, and the orders are to limber up, attach those vehicles there behind the guns to the cannons, have the 6-horse teams, move them into position just over by our tour stop number 4 over there, and to support the Pioneer Brigade. Now, many of us probably think at that point, Toomey already worrying about, his performance and dying and everything else like that would be like, oh no. But actually what he said, it was somewhat of a relief, because finally they were going to be doing something. So they get into position with the Pioneer Brigade, another unit all made up of men who have been selected not because of their combat prowess, but because they know how to handle an axe, a shovel, something like that. Commanded by officers who were selected because they know how to be engineers, not command men in combat. The unit has never drilled together on the ground in a fight. And they are attached to the only group of cannoneers who have never fired a shot in anger. They will be facing Hector's Texas Brigade, some of the most hard-bitten, experienced Confederate soldiers in the Army of Tennessee. And you're thinking to yourself, oh boy, this is going to end badly now. But it doesn't, because training counts. What we're really doing out here for you folks today is what they did. Day in, day out, 8 to 10 hours a day, 7 days a week. Drill, 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 practice. And practice does indeed make perfect. What does John Toomey tell us? Once the command load came, as the Confederates started coming across the field, there was nothing for me except sponge, ram, sponge, ram. He was one of the #1 men. And in fact, he won't even look up. He says, it takes all my concentration simply to do my job and work with the rest of the team. And by the time an hour or so passes and the Confederates have been beaten back several times, Toomey and his comrades, those that managed to not be wounded or killed, and some were, will find that they have actually been part of a stand by the entire Union Army here along the Nashville Pike, backed up mainly by its artillery that turned the tide of battle. So they are part of this becoming one of the most important Union victories of the war. Plus, they've seen the elephant. They've done it. Those questions are now answered. They can do their job. So they start patting each other on the back. It's New Year's Eve after all. Somewhere, somehow, some way, bottles and casks of stuff start to appear, and they celebrate. And since nothing really happens on January 1st, they keep on celebrating. Then comes January 2nd, 1863. The call comes for the Chicago Board of Trade to move over towards the river. Captain James Stokes is at their head. They start receiving fire from their right. And when they do, Stokes, who may actually still be suffering from the after effects of their celebrations, orders the battery to unlimber, go into battery and fire to their right, towards the Confederate cannons, but straight into the backs of an Ohio battery in front of them. They were down here, then they were up here with that euphoria. Now, whoop, they're back down here again. Well, luckily they didn't kill anybody. And the Ohio boys decided not to turn their guns back around and show those newbies what for. And they move into line, and all together with the Chicago Board of Trade, there are 57 Union cannons in that line. There they will watch as the Confederates attack and overwhelm the Union forces on the east bank of the Stones River. Praying as their brethren on the other side start to move off that hill and down towards the river, that they run faster because they can't shoot. The two sides are so mixed together, the light is failing, they can't see their targets, and if those Rebs get across the river, it won't be long, they'll be up inside the guns, and then they'll be all she wrote. So the anxiety starts to build again. But then the Confederates pause at the top of the hill. In fact, their orders had been to take the hill. They stop, they assess the situation. When they see the Union forces running, they decide, got them on the run, keep them on the run. They start down as well. But during all that time, and it's only a matter of seconds, maybe a minute, or maybe a little more, the Union soldiers have been running like crazy. And now when the Confederates start down, they are a big, easy target. And once again, Toomey hears the command load, everything is focused on the gun, and they start firing away until the command to cease fire. When he looks up, what's left of Breckinridge's forces are moving back up the riverbank with Union forces in hot pursuit. Once again, the Chicago Board of Trade boys are like, woo, we did it again. We're here, we're part of this thing. Union artillery saves the day. Then they get a call to limber once more, move down towards the Stones River. They're going to cross the river, put their guns on that hill that their boys had been on earlier in the day. As they get into the middle of the river, about waist deep in icy cold water, which in and of itself will dampen your day, I can promise you that. That's not what really hits them, because remember, these are new soldiers. One thing they have not yet experienced is what their guns can do. Seeing it firsthand. And as they sit there in the river, they actually, some of them, get physically ill as bodies start moving with the current, bouncing off the guns, the horses, the men themselves, and wait as Union infantry drags dead and wounded Confederate soldiers out of the way to make a road so that the guns don't crush them as they cross. 1,800 Confederate soldiers dead or wounded in less than 45 minutes. And the Chicago Board of Trade Battery was part of that. So that's why we like to share their story. I mean, one, they're at every key moment where Union artillery steps in, saves the day for the Union Army, which frankly could have easily lost this battle, but stops the Confederate tide at those key moments and turns this into a war-changing victory. Plus, with these guys being so new to this affair, it does give us a chance to look in and have a window into the roller coaster of emotions that new soldiers, and this is true of every soldier, because every soldier's got to have their first fight, that they're going to be going through up and down, as they, take in something that frankly is not something that we are all, even today, wired to really kind of take in. And so that's the story of the Chicago Board of Trade Battery. And I didn't get on 10 minutes because he was sitting there with a watch. Bam! So I'm going to step aside, let you watch the battery fire again. Remember, stay behind the rope, cover up those ears, and enjoy the final firing of the program.
All good. Done with K. 3 seconds.
Okay, 3 seconds. Whoa!
Get behind the rope. Everybody's in front of them. Get behind.